Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, episode 161, recording on Sunday, August 13th, 2023. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And we're going to be talking about the THQ Nordic Digital Showcase 2023. In the lulls of summer, this beacon of light appeared for us to discuss something this week. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad.
Doing fantastic. Thanks to the gentleman here for delaying the recording a bit because I had forgot we were going to be recording and I decided to go for a run. And while I was out on my run, I got my reminder saying Game Junk starts in 10 minutes. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to delay your lives for me. So,
hey, no worries.
And it's not a problem, but I also want to mention at the top of the show, I always do it at the end, youtube.com/gamejunk. If you want to watch the video or, you like YouTube, check it out, subscribe, like it, do whatever, leave some comments. That's probably, if you want to comment on stuff, that's the place to do it. I read those. I'm sure you guys do too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, maybe we should mention too, you usually plug Huck and I our personal social media stuff, but Game Junk Podcast is on Twitter, it's on Facebook, and it's on Threads now.
It is?
It is.
I didn't approve that.
There's like 20 people following us, but
whoa,
it's there.
And in case there's one person listening to this podcast that doesn't know about it, filmjunk.com or filmjunk Patreon, patreon.com/filmjunk for film lovers.
Definitely.
Check that out as well. Okay. Are we ready to start?
I mean, you've been waiting all day for this.
No, I just watched it an hour ago. I've been waiting for an hour with bated breath. And we're going to talk about the THQ Nordic Digital Showcase 2013.
2023.
Nope, I'm calling it 2013 because I believe this came out of 2013. They had it saved from back then and they brought it back out in 2023 based on the quality of the content I saw in this. So you might have imagined we're going into roast mode for this thing and it might get ugly. There potentially a few bright spots, but we'll see what happens. So the first announcement was Alone in the Dark, which I think had been announced before. This is a remake or remaster, reimagining of the original with professional actors. Not professional is not the right word. Well-known actors doing motion capture. And at the beginning and end of the show, we saw David Harbour and Jodie Comer. Is that right?
I believe that is correct.
Yeah. And it was really weird. It was just them. It was their performance capture on a gray background, basically highlighting particularly average motion capture and performance, I would say, which was very odd.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of
this is the way people can finally see David Harbour is a terrible actor. It's a perfect showcase.
Well, he's got the excuse that it's the motion capture didn't translate his performance properly or something. But
I wasn't convinced it was a completely motion capture. It might just be face because the animation on the body looked peculiar.
Possible, definitely possible. But yeah, it reminded me a bit of didn't they do something like this for Hellblade a while back where it was like they didn't have anything to show for Hellblade 2, so they just showed like a performance capture scene.
It was the Xbox E3 thing, and it was just the character staring into a puddle.
Yeah, but at least that had the puddle and it had a little bit of background. This was just like basically a blank soundstage. Was there a table? I don't know. I can't even remember if there's a table, and I just watched it 5 minutes ago.
There's no table. But it was also like the performance is kind of strange overall. And they were also announcing there was a prologue demo on Steam for sure. I don't know if it was on consoles. I actually played it. I downloaded it.
It has been on PlayStation for a while. I don't know if it still is. But,
okay.
Yeah.
I needed to kill some time after watching this, and I didn't want to play anything else. And I played through it. It was okay. I've never played the original Alone in the Dark. Is this game beloved to you guys? Did you like this game back in the day?
I wouldn't say. I wouldn't. I played the very first original one, and I wouldn't say it was like it didn't capture me, and I didn't play it all the way through. But the opening area was definitely iconic. It was just like you were stuck in a house, and you have no idea what to do, and then after, I don't know, some sort of timer goes off, this like monster jumps through the window and kills you. And it was just like the first sort of like survival horror game I had ever played. So it impacted me in that way. But I imagine probably the next survival horror game I played was probably Resident Evil 1, which was miles ahead of what Alone in the Dark was. But I mean, I played Alone in the Dark probably 5 or 10 years before Resident Evil. So I mean, it's quite a distance between the two.
Predated it from what I recall, but
for sure. I think I played it on like an IBM like 6380 or what were they called? 386. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, like back in those kind of days.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the demo was okay. The like looked decent. Basically, an old Resident Evil game, and there was a couple of jump scares. Didn't get me too bad, and I might check this game out in the future, but it was certainly more the demo, not what they showed at this thing.
Was there actually combat in the demo?
Just walking around.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, I'm a little curious about this, but I think it comes out like right around the same time as Alan Wake 2, and I feel like that is not a good release window for them.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, the production values of Alan Wake 2 look very high, so you got to really bring it if you're going to go head to head.
Okay, next, South Park Snow Day. So we got to go to Huck first on this one. He is the South Park fan. Mm-hmm, this seemed to be the second biggest announcement of the show. What did you think?
Well, it definitely gave me vibes of, I believe, the South Park snowball throwing game on N64 that I think was horrible. So I don't have high hopes for this one. I mean, I don't know why South Park seems like an old man cartoon at this point in time. And I don't think these like co-op multiplayer shoot 'em up games are really for like old men like me. So I'm kind of surprised at the mashup for this one, to be honest. I kind of like the 3D art style. I think it looks kind of fun. The only thing, it didn't look like any of the characters' mouths were moving. I don't know if I just missed that, but it looked kind of like blank stare kind of in the face.
Yeah, it might have gotten blurred in 2.0 speed, but I don't know.
It may have. It may have.
But I remember the first person shooter. I was like, what was the name of that game? It was just called South Park.
Right. Yeah.
Snowballs at turkeys. And I kind of wish they did a remake of that. But I'm pretty unclear as to what this game is. If it's like a wave-based shooter, co-op, story-based. They did say it's co-op. It seemed like they were highlighting create your own South Park character in 3D graphics. Not quite sure what it is. 2024 is the release date. Also, graphically, I thought it was pretty weak.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could have potential, but like you said, I don't totally know what this is. So when it said co-op multiplayer, I kind of assumed team-based battles. Probably a incorrect assumption on my part, but that's just where my mind went, especially when all they showed was like battle scenarios and fire going off and stuff like that. And, you know, I do love, is it Trey Parker that does Cartman's voice? Like his voice is just so hilarious, that guy. So I will probably at least dabble in this because I'm assuming this will be a Game Pass game. I don't know why I assume that. I'm just assuming it. And so I'm gonna dabble in it, I think, for sure. But it's not, definitely I need more info before I get excited for it.
Yeah, the only thing I can see is co-op action game is what everybody's saying. It's not an RPG like the last few. Yeah, not a lot to go on. I think, you know, if it was more story based, I might be curious. But if it's just a kind of multiplayer battle game. Not as interested.
So the next game is definitely the strangest thing during this whole show, and also the one that I think has the most potential to be good potentially. It's called Outcast: A New Beginning. And now I'm seeing Outcast stuff on Steam.
It's a remake, I would think.
A reimagining of a game, because I've never heard of this game ever.
So this is the original. I always see it on my Xbox library. I think it was part of like a Games with Gold free game when it first started. Like, it's a pretty old game, the original.
Looks
and
like
I have it on my
1999.
Oh my God, this one screenshot I vividly remember from like video game magazines and stuff.
So this must be a remaster, I would think, because it looks
completely redone.
I know it's completely redone, but it's like it looks faithful to what the original game tried to do. And obviously, there's enough people that have played the original or that they would think it would be profitable to remake it. I know it looked kind of like they took the Unreal Engine and they slapped on a bunch of nice looking environments, and they had swimming and climbing and stuff like that, jetpacking around, riding on beasts. It has potential, but it was kind of like this. I felt like it was more of a showcase of mechanics in the game and environments than actually what you do in the game per se.
Yeah, it was probably the most technically impressive out of all the stuff during the showcase, but it still looks dated in my opinion. And especially the menus felt like a Saints Row 2 type of vibe. And I thought this was a case where they should have had the title of the game first, because they're bringing you in like, what this is, and they're telling a story through this character. And I'm like, why do I care about this at all? It was very strange. But the creature design was interesting, and some of the jetpack exploration and skydiving, like you mentioned, Huck, looked okay. So out of anything that we saw gameplay footage from, this is the one I'm like, I'm not writing this game off necessarily.
Yeah, I thought it looked okay. I definitely was not familiar with the franchise. It looks like what I'm seeing here, this is an actual sequel. They did a remake a few years ago, and now This is a new game in the franchise.
All right. Moving on. Recreation. Again, a very strange presentation for this game. Like, it seems so weird to me. If your game, this is like you build tracks and race cars with like demolition ideas and like breaking stuff, wreck as in WRECK creation. And it's like the highlight of this game should be physics and explosions and crazy things happening on a track. And the first minute, it felt like 5 minutes, is showing a track builder. Yeah. Okay. You can build things. Like, who cares? Lots of things allow you to build things. Like, why do I want to build stuff for this game? And then it finally got to showcasing the gameplay and the racing. And I was like, this looks like nothing's even happening. I was expecting chaos, and it just seemed like a completely weird racing game. And I thought, like, in terms of executing a trailer that captivates what your game is about, I don't think I've seen anything worse.
I remember there's like a part where it shows you like customizing the cars, and they're just changing the color and the license plate, like what the license plate is. I was like, this is the least interesting thing you could be customizing on this car.
And just small stuff, like it's people talking about how they're going to customize their track and how they were telling the story of building their track. And I'm looking at it, and the cars have lights. Like, the lights should be flickering to indicate what car is talking, like small production things to kind of amp up this trailer. Yikes. If I'm observing that type of stuff on like in the background on a YouTube video, something's up. You got to get your shit together.
And I don't know about you guys, but I think the name is clever, but so unmemorable that if I heard the name Recreation, I would never tie it to a car racing game. Never. And so I think they're doing themselves a disservice. I mean, I don't think the game looks fun, but I think the name is not helping them at all. Like, if you're going to have recreation, like you were saying, Frank, and spell it with a WR, you better have lots of shit blowing up and going everywhere all the time in your trailer. That is your catch. That is your hook. Why are you showcasing a track builder? Why are you showcasing the custom
games have
why are you racing a bad looking Hot Wheels Unleashed style racing game? You should be this should be Burnout style trailers.
It should be chaos.
It should be chaos. It's very strange. Very strange.
I could handle, I think I might have mentioned on the show in the past, like MotorStorm was an interesting game for that type of stuff. And there's no Burnout, there's no MotorStorm. I think there is a market opportunity for a chaotic racer with physics, and I can't think of anything that's satisfying it. So everything about this felt like a very big missed opportunity to me. Okay. Next, Titan Quest 2. This looked like I debated at the beginning of the show. Should I call it, or before we recorded, should I call it the THQ Nordic Digital Showcase 2013 or 2007? Because I could have gone either way. And this was kind of representative of that, where like the cinematics look very dated. I don't know what Titan Quest is, so I don't really care about Titan Quest 2, and there was no gameplay. And if you're going to do that, your cinematic trailer better be like pretty great. And it was like below average.
So, I mean, Titan Quest is a pretty big, well-known game. Like, I think this announcement is pretty big, but there's not much to the trailer. But yeah, this was a hugely popular Diablo clone from like early 2000s.
Huh?
It kind of got remade and ported a bunch of times and is still around. Like, I think the pre-show, there's DLC still coming out for the original Titan Quest, which is kind of crazy.
Okay, so I didn't even know it was a Diablo type game. Did we see this game at some other showcases? I think we did.
Not two. I think this is the first they officially announced it, I think. But
and you know what? That would change everything. And I'm looking at screenshots of it now, and it doesn't look bad. So again, almost all of the failures of this are the actual presentation and editing and cutting this stuff together. Like, it did the worst job possible of selling me on this game.
Well, they definitely, I mean, there was no host, there was no interstitial discussions, no interviews with developers, which, in some cases is fine, but it was literally just a bunch of trailers thrown together, and a lot of them were no gameplay. A lot of them didn't even have cinematics. They were just like a title card or something. So,
and really, I would not be surprised to find out there was literally nothing going on in the video game world in July and August. And they're like, well, can we just throw some shit together and get people talking about it?
I think they did the same thing last year. Like, this was their window to get some attention, because what they have usually doesn't compete with the other showcases.
Huck, anything on this one? Have you ever played Titan Quest?
No, I also had never heard of it. I just looked it up, and I mean, that's cool that people like it, but I had not heard of it either.
I mean, okay. I've played a tiny bit of the original. Like, I have it on Xbox, and it's weird because it feels like, because on PC Diablo,
Xbox?
No. It's on Xbox One or whatever. It's also on PS4, but the PC version of the game is made for click, like mouse and keyboard, right? Mm-hmm. And so in this game, when you go up to attack someone, it's kind of like you hit an attack button and they just start hacking away. Like, it's not like, you hit a button and they swing kind of thing. It's not a 1-to-1. So I really didn't like that. Didn't play more than 5 or 10 minutes, but
I have to admit, I'm kind of wonder when I'm playing Diablo, why I have to just keep click when that's what I'm going to do until I do something different. So I might be on Team Titan Quest, but I'm definitely not playing it. Next, Last Train Home, a kind of a cool idea of establishing a base for a construction management / strategy game from a train going through an area. Looked okay. Definitely not my cup of tea. So I could see it appealing to a certain demographic, but I don't like trains. I kind of hate trains, and I'm not into construction management sim. So this is
What do you mean you hate trains?
I don't like trains. I don't see the appeal of them. And it's like
Guys just writing off trains.
I do. It's really weird to me how like there's people that are so into like going to see trains and like learning about them. I'm like, I could not care any less about trains.
Yeah, I mean, there's, model trains is a huge thing. I'm sure that's, an audience for them. I didn't like, it seems like it's like a train sim, but with like a historical backdrop or something.
I kind of got the sense it's like pseudo historical, like
yeah, maybe it wasn't
reality. I don't.
Yeah, you might be right,
but I don't know. It looked okay.
I was also getting almost like a Frostpunk like management I mean, definitely the management sim part, but almost like the Frostpunk, you got to keep people alive and like manage your resources to save people. That's sort of well, in Frostpunk it's like dystopian, but this didn't really look dystopian. This is more like just we don't have the medical equipment to do it as well as we need to, kind of thing. But so I don't know, kind of interesting.
It says it's set during the Russian Civil War after World War One. So it's like it is based on history,
so 1920s, I guess that would be, right?
I know the trailer said Siberia, but I didn't know how accurate it was at all. Okay, next. Quite possibly the worst thing I've ever seen in a showcase in my life. And to the point where I swear to God, they made this bad intentionally so people would talk about it, and that's how they'd get noticed. Because the gameplay this is for Trine 5, A Clockwork Conspiracy, did not look that bad. Like the Trine games are popular. There's 5 of them. And they like had this looked like it was out of 2013, a bunch of people like getting together to play a game. And then they cap it off with a joke with a delivery man coming in, and like the acting and dialogue for this thing was absolutely horrendous. Am I alone here? Am I in a different planet? What is this?
Yeah, I thought it was a really weird way. Like, I know these games are all about the co-op experience, but it just seemed like a really weird way to sell it. Like, it felt like a Nintendo thing, actually, because they sometimes just seem really off base with their
it felt like marketing. A parody, like making a worse version of a Nintendo thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
well, the only thing is, I was just going to say, the only thing is, I think the characters in the real life stuff are supposed to be mimicking the characters in the game in terms of their like racial makeup and physical size and stuff like that. Because I think that was one of the draws of Trine, wasn't it? That there's like, different racial characters and stuff like that you get to play as, and like, I don't know. I guess is the 4th character new? Because I thought it used to be only 3 characters you could play as.
I think that's a new feature. But I mean, I've only played Trine 1, I think, so I don't remember much about it at all. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't either.
It's like, fighter wizard beef, I think, kind of thing. But like, I just looked it up because I was wondering that too. And it looks like the Trine 4 was 4 players.
Sounds familiar.
I'm not sure about 3, but yeah, I mean, it looks like more of the same. I don't know what's really new or different about this one, but
I always wanted to play these a bit because they seem like an approximation or a side-scrolling version of the Tomb Raider series, with like I can't remember.
Temple of Osiris.
Yeah, Temple of Osiris is a Guardian of Light or something like that.
Yeah,
mm-hmm. I love those games and like action, puzzle solving and strategy, and it could be good. I just never got on the Trine train. But yeah, this was really bad. Next, Space for Sale, construction management sim with a like cartoony art style that seems like it's someone landing on a planet and trying to build it from scratch. I don't know. It not my genre necessarily, but it had a pretty good art style, and I don't remember seeing a game like this before.
Yeah, I mean, I got like kind of a vague Pikmin kind of vibe from it, but
Maybe Astroneer.
Yeah, Pikmin, that's a good one. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I mean, it looked kind of interesting. Again, yeah, like you said, Frank, not really my general type thing, but if it's a more simplified kind of strategy thing, I could be into it.
Yeah.
I also don't really have too much to say about it. I mean, it was, building stuff, obviously trying to sell stuff. I don't know.
The fences,
it's hard to
like
tell.
the electric fences that like for organizing your stuff looked like a new idea or an interesting portrayal of that. But yeah, not really much to say. Next, even less to say, Way of the Hunter, Tikamoon Plains, I think, a hunting game. No, I've never really played a hunting game. This reminded me. Does anyone remember a game for PlayStation 3 called Africa, spelt with a K? That was like a photography game where you went
Sounds familiar.
to Africa with like photorealistic animals. I had bought this game from a shitty website and I never got it. It never showed up in the mail. And of course, that game is worth like $150 to $200 on eBay. I looked it up right away. I guarantee this game is worth tons now. It's the only game that didn't ship to me and it's worth a fortune.
Oh, that sucks.
Now I really want to play that game.
That's what you get for buying from a shady website instead of just.
It was a pretty shady website as far as video game websites go. I remember that. I'm like, something's off with this place. Next, Tempest Rising, an RTS that looks a bit like Command and Conquer. I have nothing to say about this. Is this a known franchise or anything like that? Or
I have no idea. Never heard of it before.
Yet another game that looks like it's out of 2013 or 2007.
Okay.
It does seem like a Command and Conquer type thing, but I don't think it's an existing franchise.
All right. The next trailer, again, felt like a cinematic trailer from, I would say, around 2013. Technically, the camera work, everything about it, the vibe. And the whole time I'm watching this, I have the comment section like just peeping out of the bottom. And it's everyone just saying, Gothic, Gothic, we want Gothic, we want Gothic. I don't know if these are people who work at that company trying to flood the comments with Gothic, because I don't know what Gothic is. And apparently it's a remake of a game, I think, a game I'm not aware of. And I'm watching this whole thing. I'm like, this doesn't look good, but whatever. And then the title comes up, or what should be the title, and it was just like some logo.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even know what this is.
Yeah, that was weird. I mean, I did not know either. It felt like, okay, I guess I should know what that logo is because it's so iconic.
I was like, is it written in the skull or something like that? And I'm just like not looking at, is it a puzzle or a perspective? I'm like, this is the weirdest thing ever. And this was the game everyone wanted to see, and they don't even put the title. Like, I'm sorry, THQ Nordic. Not everyone knows about Gothic already. It was so strange.
Yeah, and I mean, like the actual gameplay footage that they were showing, I didn't really even understand what kind of game it was.
Was that gameplay footage?
Well, maybe it wasn't.
No, it was just cinematic stuff. It was,
but it was like just following behind this guy walking. So I was like,
yeah.
If this is cinematic, that's I'm kind of a dull cinematic. But
I know it was.
But yeah,
it's like, there's the part where he smashes the guy's head on the post and stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it was a cinematic. Yikes. And then finally, this was the game I had heard about on all the news websites for, well, reasons I understand why. Turtles is a big deal. And so Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin, which on paper sounds amazing. It's a single player Ninja Turtles game in like a samurai type environment. I don't know exactly when and where the game takes place. Did they announce that?
Well, if it's based on the comic, which it sounds like it is,
Yes.
it's like in the far future, not that far, but like it's kind of a dystopian future. All the other turtles have been killed except for one, which is why it's the last Ronin.
Okay.
And that's who you'd be playing as, which is kind of interesting in the sense that, yeah, like most TMNT games, they're multiplayer games because you have 4 turtles. It just makes sense. But this is a cool idea where it's like now you have a reason for it to be one, but in the comic, that one turtle has all of the weapons. So they can choose between any of them, which could
that sounds really good. And I think a single player game with Ninja Turtles will sell a lot of copies if it's good. Does it take like, it's called Ronin. I always thought it was like, I'm thinking Ninja Turtles 3. It was actually like back in time in like samurai stuff. It's nothing like that at all. It's just
it's just a reference to what a Ronin is, I guess.
And even the imagery in this like After Effects video looked like it was kind of Japanese inspired or samurai inspired. So just the name, I guess. And
isn't that the name of the comic book though? The Last Ronin? Yeah. Okay.
So that's fine. I mean, I'm sure this game could be good. I'm sure we all thought of the same game when we saw this. Anyone want to say?
Ghost of Tsushima?
No, Metroid Prime 4. This was like a thrown together in development. Like, what's the deal here? Who cares? Like, that's fine. I'm excited, but if that's the thing we're talking,
maybe they're thinking this would have a bigger hit because that new Ninja Turtles movie just came out.
Yes.
So maybe they thought it would kind of like be like, hey, check it out, all you Ninja Turtle heads that are now out there because of the new movie that just got dropped, and maybe they thought this would have a big splash because of that.
I totally agree. That's why they did it, and but it's 6 years later. I had to look it up. We still have not seen a frame of Metroid Prime 4. So let's see how this goes. Why is no one talking about that? Do you know how many times I had to see lists of games that have been in development for 10 years and it's the worst thing ever? Now, all of a sudden, no one cares. Like, what's the deal? Let's get real here. Metroid Prime 4 is a fucking joke.
Well, I mean, people care, but I guess because they did put out, a Metroid game last year that somehow smoothed over that.
This is not about a Metroid game. This is about Nintendo announcing games, which they usually never do. They never do that. And they did, and it's probably not going to happen for another 6 years. So,
hey, I still have it pre-ordered at Walmart, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, that's great.
Luckily, Walmart's not going anywhere anytime soon. So when it arrives in 10 years or so, you'll still be good.
Oh yeah.
Please, on the YouTube, put the comments of, I don't even know if it's actually a Miyamoto quote of, I'd rather release a no game. What's the stupid quote everyone says? A good game, a bad game will not get played. I got to look it up. It's so bad.
It's something like you can only, ship a good game once or something. Or no, a bad game is bad forever.
A bad game is bad forever, I think.
Yeah, and a good game or whatever, a late game is good. Or, I don't know. Yeah, something like that.
Okay, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rush game is forever bad. So please let us know that is the rationalization for everything Nintendo does. Way to go. So cool.
It helps when you have endless supplies of money from selling your Switches and Wiis and
add this quote to the Miyamoto overrated. Just a footnote in that video essay that I'll have to do one day. Okay. So we are going to have to give a letter grade, unfortunately. We talked about this enough that it will require a grading. So I think the worst I've ever given is F+, which I've given out quite a lot. And I was debating, like, this is bad. But that one out cast game. Could be good. I'm going to give it an F plus. I was debating an F, but I'm going to give it F plus.
I don't even remember. What was the really bad one from Summer Game Fest? Didn't we all give something an F? I don't remember.
All of them?
Well, yeah. I mean, is E a rating, or is it only D or F? I don't even know if E is something people use.
The world I live in, E is possible.
Yeah, okay. I'll give it an E. E for
everyone.
I think I'm gonna give it the straight F. I didn't really like much of anything in this thing, and I thought even the trailers that they did seem to put effort into fell flat. So F.
I would have given this a D in 2013. Just for a little context.
Sure. It would have looked great 10 years ago.
Okay, that's it. The THQ Nordic Digital Showcase 2023. Let's get into what we played.
Let's do it. Frank, why don't you start with
Baldur's Gate 3?
Yeah.
I didn't buy it on the show, but I did buy it shortly after. And I've never played a Baldur's Gate game. I didn't even consider. I fired this game up one night and, oh yeah, character creator. I'm going to have to spend 3 hours in a character creator, investigating all possibilities. And I will say the character creator is really cool. Like I loved it. The colors, the visuals, I had a lot of fun messing around in the character creator, and my character is Dragonborn, and I thought that was a really cool race. And you could change like the colors and the shimmers and the iridescence and all this stuff. So I thought that was a lot of fun. I played 2 hours of the game, and I'm like, it's just throwing stuff at me. There's so many numbers. We play like Hero Quest, and it's like D&D for kids. So I have some connection to what's going on in terms of a turn and the structure, but the learning curve is huge. But it's visually, I love it. Like, it's very colorful. I was not expecting that necessarily. And Sean, was it you on the show last week? You had mentioned where the game starts, which I don't know if this is a big thing in D&D, whatever those creatures are. Is this like a thing? Because I mean,
it's a thing. Yeah.
Okay. But I know nothing about that thing or had no prior knowledge. And I thought it was a pretty good cold open to this game. So definitely I can see the influence of D&D, which I was kind of aware of, on the BioWare Knights of the Old Republic and even Dragon Age to some degree. This seems like a much more intense tactical version of some of those games. Maybe like Dragon Age is pretty tactical, but I didn't play it that much. And lots of decision making, that like who joins my party, people who die within the first hour or so. I'm like, well, this has a lot of meaningful change and impact when I'm making decisions. So I can definitely see the appeal. I think Jay had mentioned last night that a lot of people, there was an article, I saw it on IGN, of course, about like, this is the developers or other developers talking about this should not be the new standard for RPGs and possibilities. And I think leading into the fact that it was in early access for a long time and probably building on their systems for Divinity, Original Sin 1 and 2 by Larian Studios. But I didn't read the article, but I don't buy that at all. If this is the standard, this is the standard. And it seems like it might be. I don't know if I'm going to play it more this week because I'm going to be gone for a week, and it seems like a game you have to be into. But I was impressed, albeit I was overwhelmed. And I died at some point, and I lost an hour of progress. And all I kept reading about is like people spamming F5 for saves to get better dice rolls and stuff like that. I'm like, well, they have 5 backup saves, so I figured they must be saving often. It was the exact opposite. I literally lost an hour.
Yeah, it is weird. Like they autosave before most combat, but I think it's weird because like if combat is just like gonna happen, it'll autosave. But if you're starting a conversation with somebody that could lead to combat, it won't. So that's where you gotta start saving on your own. I didn't lose an hour of progress, but I had a couple things happen like that where I was like, oh, I thought that would have autosaved, but it didn't. So yeah.
Yeah. And is it F5? Am I remembering that stuff?
I don't know because I'm playing on Steam Deck. So
okay. But yeah, I'm quite impressed so far. And it feels like a richer but less action-based version of stuff like Dragon Age Inquisition. Like that was the vibe I got from it for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like I haven't played a ton of games like this. I know it's like CRPG is the genre, but like you mentioned,
I feel like a dummy now. What's CRPG?
Computer role-playing game, apparently. But like that's the thing is you mentioned KOTOR, Mass Effect, like those are the ones that I have played that are probably the most similar to this. So I don't know if those are considered CRPGs. Like I don't know what the division is, but I mean, I'd be curious to hear what Huck has to say at some point if you do play it, Huck. But it's yeah, I'm like I'm 11 hours in, but I feel like 5 hours of that is just like leveling up, playing with inventory, like just so much stuff to fiddle with, which sometimes I don't have the patience for that. But I don't know, it's not really bothering me here because there's just so many options. And it's like, one of the big things that I've seen in interviews with the developers and stuff is like, if you are in a battle that you kind of keep losing over and over again, there's probably another way around it, whether through conversation or spells or something. So you really start to look at, okay, I have all these people in my party that I can choose from. Like, what else can I do? And, I don't think the game's the best at teaching you. Like, I think they do assume you have some D&D knowledge, but even beyond that, like there's things like the way like the camp system or whatever, like you have 4 people in your party. And then if you get somebody else wants to join, they get sent to camp and you can swap people in and out, but you got to go to camp to do that. Like, I don't really know if that's a D&D concept. Like I haven't really played 5th edition, so I'm not sure, but like that was I had to figure out how that all works. And like the idea of like a short rest versus a long rest.
I don't know how I regenerate certain resources and economies. And it had a tutorial mode, but I don't think it's very good at teaching me, especially a newcomer. They should even had like a complete idiot tutorial mode that I would have relished.
Yeah, so what does the tutorial mode do then? Like, is that
just not much, to be honest? When something new happens, it kind of gives you a primer on that, but certainly doesn't educate me on certain economies or like, I feel like they should guide you through a battle at some point. Even when I played, what's that ogre game? I always forget the title of. Tactics Reborn or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Ogre Tactics.
Ogre Tactics Reborn. They like did a whole battle, and even that went too fast. But they took you through every possible action. I wish they would have had like some fights early on where they made you do a bunch of stuff, or an optional fight like that. So I kind of get a sense of what the game's about. Because
just to save your credit, is Tactics Ogre Reborn. That's the name of the game.
All right, thank you. But the exploration stuff is great, and I enjoyed a lot. I'm struggling with keyboard and mouse, and might try it with controller. But it definitely kind of has me. I know I'm looking at a list of best CRPGs, and Divinity Original Sin 2 is number 1 on that list, and a lot of people love that game. So I feel like maybe this is a gateway to some of that stuff, but I'm going to have to watch a lot of videos of 20 things Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't tell you, or combat tips.
Yeah.
I got to do some serious research before I get back into this game. But I did see it's not that long, right? Like most RPGs are super long on how long to beat. I think it said like 30 hours.
Yeah, it definitely seemed reasonable, like just for the
Yeah, that
main.
seems very reasonable.
Okay, wait a sec. So someone is saying 75 to 100 on How Long to Beat. Main story was 34 hours and main and sides 73. I was expecting hundreds of hours, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, I don't know if like, it's definitely probably the most I've played this kind of game before. And, I do feel like I'm going to keep playing it for a while. I don't know if I'll finish it. I guess we'll see. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. And it's, it is some of that stuff. I think you can, like you said, like you can kind of start to learn as you go, at least just by looking things up. I guess sometimes you got to know that there is something to look up there. But like you said, like some of those articles are helpful. Like stuff like high ground, low ground in combat is important. The spell
initiative, I think, is something where I saw another thing about you can have dual actions with initiative and advantage versus disadvantage. I'm completely
lost.
I'm
not. Initiative is like a pretty standard D&D thing. I'm not too familiar with advantage, but like I know, like if you kind of turn your back to someone and try to move away, they can attack you, get a free attack on you. And then there's certain actions, like you can do a standard attack, but then within your turn, sometimes your character will have certain actions that are like free that you could still do. So some of those things can be helpful to know what each character can and can't do. But yeah, the spell thing, like the economy for spells, I'm still confused about, because I think it's different between like wizards versus clerics versus like some of the other classes. Like some of them, it's like when you level up, you pick a spell and only those spells that you've picked. But I think it's like clerics and some of the other ones, they actually know all the spells that are available to them, but you can pick and choose which ones you want to prepare ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And then like there's spell slots and like, yeah, it's just, I don't know why it's not consistent for all spellcasters, but anyway, I'm
just looking through the character creator guide here. The character creator is so cool. Like it looks amazing. I could spend a day in the character creator messing around with it. I know there's lots of good character creators, but I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah. And it's not just like cosmetic stuff too. Like it's a lot of the different skills and things that you pick do play into your options for how to approach situations. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very involved, but I get the appeal. Not sure if it's quite for me yet, but it's I think the one takeaway from what everyone's saying about this game is like how impressive it is, like technically and branching paths and consequence, and you get a sense of that within an hour of the game for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything for you?
I can mention, since we're on the Baldur's Gate, that I tried Baldur's Gate 1. I think I mentioned last show that I had purchased the bundle off Humble Bundle. And so I fired up Baldur's Gate 1, and I didn't want to spend a lot of time just like exploring everything on my own. So I was actually trying to find a guide, and it is surprisingly hard to find a guide on this game, because it seems like depending on what class you choose, the beginning is different. So I didn't realize that, and I kind of was following a guide, I think, of a paladin, and then it was telling me to do stuff that didn't exist in my intro area. So I need to find a better guide to help me get through this. But it is definitely overwhelming, the menus and the journals, and even the old style of zoomed out isometric. I'm having trouble even just kind of like recognizing almost like what I can click on and what is just background kind of stuff, like simple stuff like that. And I'm sure I will get used to it as I play more. But also it just seems so dialogue heavy that I'm kind of just like my eyes are glazing over as I'm reading the text, which is never a good thing to figuring out where to go. But overall, I'm going to try to keep playing it, but I definitely want to follow a guide. I don't want to do it all, figuring it out myself, play it like a real game. I want to cheat.
So there's definitely this idea that those Baldur's Gate games and the Neverwinter Nights game, I think, were developed by Beamdog, which is like not
Beamdog.
Yes.
BioWare.
Well, okay.
Are you talking about the enhanced editions?
Yeah, the enhanced edition for Baldur's Gate is Beamdog. So it's the original Baldur's Gate,
BioWare.
Which I was going to say, Beamdog is located. I was just reading this in Edmonton, Canada. So I'm like, oh, this must be people who used to work at BioWare or something.
Yeah, it's ex-BioWare people.
Okay, so this all makes sense, how those things are all grouped together. And it's interesting that now Baldur's Gate has gone to Larian and shifted away from who owns Baldur's Gate?
Could be EA now. Well, I guess it's probably like Wizards of the Coast. They probably hold the IP.
Okay.
Because they are the D&D people.
Man, I'm such a D&D noob. I have no idea.
We got to get some real D&D going.
I need to learn some D&D skills. Like I know nothing about it. It's pathetic.
I've tried. I haven't actually tried to play any of the big ones, but I mean, I worked on a D&D game, so I tried at that time, failed miserably, and then
Daggerdale.
Yeah, Daggerdale, and then we were working on another one that failed to launch, and then I also recently, like a year and a half ago, purchased a game called Gloomhaven, a board game. Sorry, and it's supposed to be sort of like easier entryway into D&D type games, I believe. Yeah, and it was pretty cool.
Persistent. I've heard it's supposed to.
And it's got that persistent aspect of it, like Risk Legacy and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool.
There's some persistent elements to Hero Quest as well, right? Like.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, you get to write down your hero.
And I keep
your loot.
There's tons of I don't know if Hero Quest, the re-release of that, started this trend that's going on, or if it was released because it was already happening. But there's tons of games coming out right now that are this kind of DM-less, campaign-based sort of role-playing games, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. All right, let's have a Hero Quest moment. Where are you guys at? How far are you? Because every time I bought Hero Quest, I got suckered in by the commercial, just like every other kid back in the 80s. I bought it. I only played ever up to maybe the 6th or 7th mission, and then just totally failed out. Where are you guys at?
I think we beat all the main quests in the main game.
No way, there's 30, isn't there?
Yeah, is it 30? I don't know how many we did, but we're onto an expansion now. So I don't know if we just decided to branch off. I feel like we didn't do 30. That's a lot. Did we?
I don't know.
I feel like
I must say you guys are heroes.
20, but
you guys are absolute heroes.
It's interesting because it's it is a fairly simple game.
12. Sorry.
And I thought we were going to kind of get bored of it after a few sessions, but I don't know. We
kept playing.
We kept playing. Obviously, part of it is we just know it now, but they do switch things up enough from quest to quest that it's still kind of fun.
I think a nice part is switching DM as well. Always creates a different vibe.
Yeah, that's true.
Weekend was the best ever.
I always found the.
Sorry.
What's going on over there, Frank?
A stupid Steam page. I'm looking at this Gloomhaven game, and
actually, this Gloomhaven game was also one of the free games on Epic a month or two ago. I haven't tried the actual digital version, but I tried the digital version of Terraforming Mars, which I've played, which is another board game. It's actually pretty good, the digital version. But I was just gonna say, Hero Quest, I always found the rules so confusing. In terms of can I use this magic spell more than once? Can I?
You said that, Huck.
Very ambiguous.
I've said that many times. The words ambiguous, nebulous for rules and rule writing have come up a lot, and I've been shamed and ridiculed.
Really?
For bringing up these points. Sean's
really?
Oh yeah. Jay doesn't like it when you say the rules are ambiguous. He always
Oh,
takes the
well,
side of
I'm
hero.
on your side. I'll back you up against Jay the next time I see him and we're talking Hero Quest, because I remember the rules being very ambiguous, and you like, can you actually just spam these things as much as you want? Because it seems like you can if you really wanted to, but that doesn't seem right.
I'm glad you brought it up completely unprompted. It couldn't have gone any better.
Perfect.
Okay. And I'll just say I finished Final Fantasy 16 finally. Thank God it's over. I started Final Fantasy mode right after New Game Plus, debating getting the platinum trophy. Probably
it was so bad I started New Game Plus.
I'm mentioning this for a reason. As I've said before, the game is absolutely beautiful. Like, it looks so good, and the combat is fun. I love the combat. So just skipping cinematics and doing all the combat scenarios, I'm enjoying. So kind of weird that this year Baldur's Gate is like this definitive RPG experience. Not that that's that surprising. And Final Fantasy has become an action game. It's shit's going on. Shit's weird, man. Like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
I think that I have one more thing, but you guys go ahead.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I've been playing Viewfinder, which I think we did talk about a while back. I mean, really like the game. I'm like close to the end now. Like, I'm on the final area, I guess. But it's just, like, if you haven't seen it or tried the demo, I mean, the main idea is that you have pictures that either you can take a picture of a scene with a camera, or you pick up a picture of a scene and you can place it down, and it goes from being 2D to now being like a 3D part of that world. And I'm, just impressed with some of the ways they've built on that main mechanic. And it's a lot of fun. One thing, I don't know if the story elements, I'm really not following what's going on. Like, there's kind of this narration and stuff happening, and I'm kind of tuned out on that. So maybe a little disappointed with that element.
Okay.
I'm still working my way through Jedi Survivor, but not had much time to put into it. But I played maybe half an hour of Islets, however you say it.
Islets.
And yeah, Islets. And I'm enjoying it, though I'm finding the attacking a little sluggish. I don't know if it's just because I'm not used to it. I haven't played. I don't know. I had the itch to play like a Metroid in the next. Every time I say that, I laugh. And I was trying to look around because usually Xbox Game Pass has some good ones on there, but I didn't really see any that really interest me. So I picked up Islets and what was that other one? Night Witch, I think was the other one called. I haven't played that one yet, but I played a bit of Islets and it was pretty good so far. And I'm very early, but I think I'm appreciating their hidden walls, the little puzzles of like breaking a block and then having it disappear, and you have to sort of approach it the right way. I don't know. I've reached one puzzle where it's like you have two options. Which one do you break first? And then you have to kind of understand how the puzzle is going to work to be able to get to a high level. And I like it so far, but I'm very, very early. So
yeah, it's a good game. It should get a little more attention. And I wanted to go back and play the developer's first game. I bought that at some point and can't remember what it's called, but yeah, it's very good. Just randomly. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
I was just going to say, I feel like it does start a little slow in terms of movement and combat, but about halfway through, you start to get some abilities that it starts to flow quite nicely, I think.
Yeah, if you search for, you find the hidden things and you're allowed one perk. I think focused a lot of those on just improving combat stuff rather than health, and it made the game more fun.
Okay, yeah, I found one, and I think I did the attack power increase.
Yeah, and use your arrows more, I would say. Start using arrows early because they kind of auto lock. They're it's a bit of a learning curve to get used to them, but definitely.
Yeah, the only issue I had was on I was playing on Steam with an Xbox controller. I think it was an Xbox Series X controller, and it wasn't recognizing the buttons properly. Like right trigger was start button, and like left like I had to click the right stick to get the map, even though it said that should be select. So it was having some issue with button bindings, and it was also showing me PlayStation button icons. So I had to go into like the Steam controller configuration, I think, app and set it up properly. But it was a little odd. But I mean, everything seemed to be working, but other than those two kind of switches.
Now's a good time to mention controller configuration. Even though I'm glad it's there now, it was not always in Steam. Still not great. And like the switching controllers and some of the shit that can go wrong, depending on what you click from controller configuration, is not great on Steam. The only thing that kind of drives me nuts, especially with the DualSense, it's even worse. And you have to plug it in to get haptic feedback. And how is this not fixed yet? Give me a fucking break.
No one can get the DualSense to work properly in their engines except Valve for some reason. So, like on PC.
Yeah. But it has
it's better than
even if you play a Sony game. There are some like Jedi Survivor has it on PC, and like
I hope Sony can get their Sony hardware.
Sony games work, but it only works with a wired connection.
Okay, interesting.
Unless that's been figured out since the last time I looked into it. Okay, last thing. I was just randomly on Steam today, and there's a free game that's a Vampire Survivors like, but with actual buttons, called Disfigure. And I played it for about 20 minutes, half an hour before the show. And I'm just bringing it up because it's free and kind of fun. It also makes me think, like, is Vampire Survivors possibly the worst thing to happen to video games in the last 10 years, where these games are so easy to make? It's kind of a double-edged sword where I can play a twin stick shooter almost all the time. Like, I do not get sick of them. And a roguelike twin stick shooter, yeah, I can get hooked on that for 2 hours easy.
Are you calling Vampire Survivors a twin stick shooter?
I'm not, but it's there, so it's definitely influencing things.
It's a one stick shooter.
It's a one stick shooter, but it's taking the simplicity of that game and applying it to a twin stick shooter. And I've bought lots of games like this, 20 minutes till dusk, I think, and thankfully they're all cheap. This one's free, so yeah, check it out if you want a free game to play. It's not that bad.
Just on that note, I think, isn't there like an update coming for Vampire Survivors this week?
Yeah, they've got a bunch. Is it finally? I think it's coming out on the Switch now too.
Maybe, but I think there's like a co-op mode, which I'm kind of curious about. That seems like that could be kind of fun. So.
Yeah. So we'll see where this genre goes. I had some ideas while I was playing this game as to how to expand upon it. Just forget about those when I go to bed tonight. Probably. Okay. I think anyone else have anything they want to talk about?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening or watching on youtube.com/GameJunk. Not sure if there'll be a show next week. Possibly, possibly not. Maybe the week after we will return with Gamescom coverage. Hopefully a few megatons drop. We can really get into it. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.